Operating aircraft like the B-17 during wartime conditions, one expected to pay a heavy price. But thanks to the generations of airmen and personnel servicing aircraft that have survived, we as the aviation community and the public at large owe a tremendous amount to the men that kept those aircraft flying at some risk to themselves. And that risk was brought starkly home to the aviation community with the loss of Texas Raiders, the P-63 and the airmen involved. They paid a price. They paid a price for preserving and honouring their forefathers.
It was young women and older men that ran the factories that produce aircraft like this. So, and again, because of their sacrifice and their commitment to the cause, we prevailed, and we get the benefit of living in a beautiful country.
I think the aircraft performed miraculously given the fact that we didn't own the skies, and that on any given day you were at peril to be shot down by an enemy aircraft. I think it was pretty remarkable.
The aircraft was first taken into combat by the British 90 Squadron RAF, and it was a far cry from the Flying Fortress that people recognise historically, because it had a very slender tail, very poor defensive armament, and the operations by the RAF, flying at some 30,000 feet, showed many vulnerabilities to the Flying Fortress bomber.
So the RAF used the B-17 first. They were issued with some of the earlier models, but it was definitely not plain sailing. This was the first time that the B-17 had been used in a combat environment, and the RAF were less than impressed with the airframe to start with, unfortunately. America at this point was far from being involved in the Second World War. They weren't aware of what was needed in terms of aircraft and the defences that aircraft was going to need for bombing over Europe. When the RAF got it, it was not up to the standards of the aircraft they were already using in the form of the Mosquito and the Lancaster.
This airplane was designed by Slide Rule and a committee, and it was a lot of compromise. Things that may have worked on another airplane, they tried to shoehorn into this one. And yeah, it may work, but they were designed to be assembled once, and if they lasted 100 hours, you weren't going to have to take them apart and rebuild them.
Equipment froze, men froze, engine oil froze because of the climate it was operating in Europe. Engine changes were frequent. Flying Fortresses might go through 8, 10 or 12 engines during their careers if they lasted that long.
I was a ball turret gunner, and they were short of ball turret gunners. Most people, well, I didn't want to be in the ball turret either. It just happened that I was assigned to the ball turret because of a goof up. First mission, I thought we were going to get shot down, and I don't have a parachute. I'll be gone. That's all there is to it. And when we got back on the ground, that's when I got busy. So I went to the supply room and told the supply sergeant, says, I'm looking for a test type chute. I'd heard of test chutes, but I'd never seen one. And I just kept staying around there bugging him. Finally, he says, well, there's a pile of junk out there we brought up from Africa. He says, you can go out there and look through that, see what you can find. And I found this chest type chute in there, and I got that thing, and it fit. And I just kept taking that thing with me on every mission, you know.
During World War II, there were 13 50 cal machine guns on board the B-17. Here's one of them right here in the waist position, and we've got the other guns throughout the airplane from tail to nose. Now up here is where all the ammo was stored. All the 50 cal ammo would be fed through here, through these belts right there, and into the bottom.
The airplane is totally different on the ground. I mean, once you get it in the air, it's just a big, slow, old round engine airplane. But on the ground, being a tail dragger, it's quite unstable. So you really have to be really right on top of it. Obviously, we fly well below the gross that they flew in World War II. And our turbochargers are deactivated on that airplane, but on this aircraft, it does not affect your sea level and low altitude performance. We still get full takeoff power without the turbos on sea level airports when it's not too hot. But it's a very slow airplane. You know, it lifts off the ground around 85, 90 knots, depending on how heavy you are. And you're doing good if you can get 1,000 feet a minute out of it.
You say you flew in the ball turret.
I love the ball turret, as I said. One day.
Now I know that wasn't there a height restriction on the ball turret?
No, sure. Some guys are 6 foot.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I'm 6'1", and I've got in this one here, and he can't close the hatch on me.
I loved it because I could get in that turret, turn those guns up like that, and I could see the bottom of the airplane. Otherwise, you had a beautiful view all around it and so forth. I went through gunnery school. I was in the 10th highest gunners there.
Did you ever fly in one of the 17s that had the older type that had the tub type turret in place of the Sperry?
No.
Okay.
No, they didn't have any of those. Yeah.
Okay.
Not even here in the States, but in our training.
There's not quite, there is no seat like the nose bubble when you're going down the runway. and it's probably even more impressive when you're coming in for a landing. It's an impressive seat, and you know, we rotated on that first trip going in and out of there, and I had my video camera going like crazy. But you know, it's also kind of fun riding back in the tail, and you can see all the way to the wingtips and straight up to the rudder. It's cold and it's really noisy back there at altitude.
Load master. Must be an airport nearby. On behalf of the Commemorative Air Force, we thank you for contributing your dollars to the upkeep of these aircraft. We all are volunteers. All of our members are volunteers, and all your dollars go to the direct operational requirements of this aircraft, maintenance, and so on and so forth. It's an honor and a privilege and a responsibility to be here today as crew. 6,000 young men between the ages of 23 and 17 years old never grew old. 28,000 were POWs. Now imagine, just for the moment, in this beautiful flight we're going to have down to the Front Range of the Rockies, just imagine for the moment that you're 17 to 23 years old and there's a 1 in 4 chance that you're not going to make it back. Take a moment, please, and commemorate their service. Because of their sacrifice, we are able to enjoy the beautiful day today, and their commitment to the cause, we prevailed.